Okay, Chapter 1 from the book Technological Progress and the Human Takeover of Spaceship Earth. So this is basically an overview of technological progress, why it's so fundamental, what choices it gives us, what, in the big picture, what choices have we made. Okay, so let's have a look. Slide 3, Human Evolution. So, we've got 3 dates there. What are those dates? 2 million years, 300,000 and 70,000. We could argue about the details, but basically there's 3 key things happened around about these times. 2 million years ago, 300,000 years ago, 70,000 years ago. What happened 2 million years ago? Yeah, basically manual selected, what do you call it in English? The humans evolved. Okay, humans evolved around about then. Okay, but not Homo sapiens, but the first human species. Okay, what happened 300,000 years ago? That's when Homo sapiens evolved. Okay, so if you went out to sort of East Africa or wherever it was, round about that time, found some people out there, checked out their genes, checked out the way their bodies are, the way their brains are, they'd look pretty much like us. Okay, but if you looked at their society, it would look pretty different. Yeah, big time. Okay, what happened 70,000 years ago? Broadly, that is when the process of the takeover of the spaceship started. Okay, so in this interval here, humans existed, or sapiens, Homo sapiens existed, but for whatever reason, we never really took off. We were in sort of roving bands of, you know, a few dozen up to 100 people maybe, hunting, gathering, whatever, in limited regions of the Earth. Admittedly, I guess we spread out quite a lot. It's a while since I looked at the details of this. We spread out a lot, didn't we, in this period? Even the earlier humans spread out a lot. But we definitely weren't in charge of the planet. Far from it. But round about here, something happened, and we started being able to work together in much bigger groups, develop new technologies, develop new cultures, and the whole process kicked off. Okay. Oh yeah, so we've got, it says here, genetic and cultural evolution. And from here, the cultural evolution takes over, which is, of course, can go much faster than genetic evolution. At least, certainly for humans, where you've got a generation time of, you know, minimum kind of 15 years, typically modern humans, 30 years. So, we've developed these better technologies. What happens? Slide 5. What can we choose to do? Well, let's think about, oh, this is a terrible picture of a milk bottle. This is how milk bottles used to look in the UK when I was young. they had an aluminium top on. And these birds, the blue tits, blåmesar, they worked out that at the top of the bottle was this delicious cream. Okay, it was none of this semi-skimmed stuff in those days. Yeah, you guys probably don't even know this, but if you have sort of natural milk, it contains cream which rises to the top if you let the milk stand. Okay. And somehow, one day, a blue tit found that, oh, if you sort of pecked a hole in this little thin aluminium top and stuck your nose in there, there was this delicious cream. And it turned out they don't like milk, but they love cream. Okay. So, this is like a new technology, isn't it? It's a new way of getting food and boosting, yeah, a new way of getting more food, more consumption. Okay. So, for a given amount of work, if Y is net production, they're not doing, let's say they're not doing any investment, so it's the same as consumption, then it's like AL, L, where L is how much they work and AL is how productive they are. And with their old technology, and this is linked to their technologies, right? With their old technologies, they have to go and try and find seeds and things. And it's super hard work. They can only find a certain number of seeds, whatever. With this new one, they can get more consumption quicker. Okay. What happens? What do? Do they kick on and develop further and further new technologies and take over the spaceship? No. But what do they do? What could they do? Well, one thing they could do is, oh great, you know, we can collect food at an incredible rate, so they raise their consumption and become hugely fat. Blue tits. Is that what happens? Is that what we see in nature? No. Another thing they could do is just spend a lot less time gathering food each day, because they just need to pop off and get that cream and they're done for the day. So then they could go and hang out in their trees and sort of sing to each other, or just chill, go to have a lie-in on the nest. Okay, do you think they do that? I don't think so. I'm not an ornithologist, by the way, but I don't think so. What do? They go back to the nest and they raise another brood, don't they? They have more food for the chicks. The chicks fly the nest, they've still got this source of food. They can raise another brood. Or maybe this could just be the difference between life and death. Maybe through this they can survive the winter, which is the tough period, right, when there's not much food around, and then they're ready then in the next summer, there's more birds around to have bigger broods. The population expands. Okay. So when they come up with a new technology allowing them to produce more per bird, the population expands, and ultimately they'll be back to the same consumption per bird, because once the population has expanded a bit, you've got loads of, oh dear, this is really testing, this looks more like a kiwi, doesn't it? Whatever, you're going to have loads of birds, all, it's a flying anteater. You're going to have loads of birds all competing to get hold of the cream and to get hold of the seeds and whatever else blue tits eat. So you're going to reach a new equilibrium with more blue tits than in the old equilibrium, and lots of pissed off housewives. Okay. What do humans do when they get better technologies? Well, what do you think? If we take the period from 70,000 BC to 1700 AD, what did they do? Any thoughts? Have a think about it. Pause the video. The answer is they did just like the blue ticks. Okay, they raised their reproductive success. Okay, the biggest single step in this period was the agricultural revolution, 10,000 BC, yeah, 12,000 years ago-ish. I mean, it happened across different parts of the world round about the same kind of time, round about 12,000 years ago. Domesticating animals and plants. Agriculture started. So instead of hunting and gathering, we actually grew stuff and fed it to animals or ate it directly. This allowed far more production per unit of land. Initially, when families or villages realized they could do this, they would get more food and they'd be happier, right? But then, after a while, their reproductive success would go up, the population would go up, and before long, they would be stuck. They would have to carry on with the agriculture. They couldn't go back to hunting and gathering because they couldn't get enough food that way to support the bigger population they now had, right? And they'd be back to the original level of consumption. And this is basically what we see in figure 1, page 7. And this is what this English guy, Sir Thomas, is he Sir? No, probably wasn't Sir. Where did I get that Sir from? Thomas Malthus, anyway, said, I think it was around about 1700, wasn't it? Malthus was writing his stuff. Don't have the reference here. But he said, look, this is the human condition, yeah. If we, through a bit of cleverness or whatever, manage to get a bit more food and have a bit more cushy situation, we just reproduce and then soon we're back where we started. Okay. The ironic thing was he was totally right up until the time that he wrote this. And then from that, roughly that point on, he was wrong, because we went into a new phase. We gradually stopped using our better technologies to increase our population, and we went over to using them to increase our consumption per person, okay, to have a cushier life, to have more food, or above all, more other stuff, as well as just the food we needed to survive, better housing, entertainment, etc. Okay, slide 7, you can see the data. Of course, I mean, it's very, very rough and ready, this data, especially going a long way back. But if you just think about a typical family any time in history, in any part of the world, pre-1700, it's pretty much the same situation, right? You've got a very small minority, the royalty or whatever, who are having a lot of excess consumption, but the typical family is basically on the breadline throughout human history. Okay. What about slide 8? What are these? We have some flying anteaters. What are these? They look a bit like ostriches, don't they? Anyone know what they are? Any New Zealanders? Any Kiwis here? Yeah, I talked about the kiwi. This was a bit of a, for a while this looked like a kiwi, didn't it? They're moa, which are birds that were native to New Zealand. So why am I putting them up? Well, I'm thinking, what was humans' relationship to nature in this period? Pre-capitalism. Was it this idealized, bucolic vision, humans in harmony with nature? I guess you can see where I'm going here. No, it wasn't. It was I was just about to say an ugly word. It was not pretty. Okay. And the moa illustrate this quite nicely. There were like 20 odd species of moa on New Zealand until Homo sapiens arrived. Homo sapiens arrived on New Zealand, it's a while since I looked at this too. I think it's just 800 years ago, I think. So until then, there were no humans on New Zealand. But then the Maori arrived, and of course, you know, this isn't about the Maori as such, this is about Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens arrived, basically. What happened? The moa were easy meat. They were dead meat. Okay, within a few generations they were gone. Okay. The nice thing about this is, well, it's pretty horrible, but because it's so recent, we can really see it in the fossil record, you know, it's just so clear. Humans arrived, century later, all the moa have gone. There's absolutely no discussion about cause and effect here. You know, the moa have been around there for hundreds of thousands, probably millions of years, tens of millions. I don't know the evolutionary story, but I guess it's bound to be in the millions. And then within the space of 100 years, like humans arrived, gone. Okay. Then in the archaeological and the fossil record, we can see this happening over and over again across the globe. And of course there are those who argue that, oh, it's just a coincidence, it was climate change, it was a meteor, it was... No. Like, the moment humans show up in some new continent, some new island, whatever, the first thing that happens in the fossil record, or, you know, within tens, hundreds, well, hundreds or thousands, a few thousand years, we see megafauna, these big species, easy meat, they disappear. Not least, Neanderthals. Yep. As soon as we sapiens arrived, or not as soon as, but shortly after we arrived in new places where the Neanderthals were hanging out, oh, they seem to disappear. Okay, so it wasn't pretty, so don't get the idea that pre-capitalism we were living in harmony with nature. Okay. From what, of course, one point of view, and scientifically, we're part of nature. Okay. But if you take the more culture view that we have, the human culture, and then see nature as something else, well, it wasn't always a very harmonious relationship. And of course, post the agricultural revolution, as well as wiping out species, we also favoured some other species massively, like, you know, wheat or cattle, you know. What's the data now? Like 96% of mammal weight on the globe is, I don't know if that's apart from us, I guess, is domestic animals. 4% is wild animals. Okay, another thing to mention about the Malthusian phase is that the rate of technological progress was incredibly slow. So if we go back to page 7 and the picture there of global population, the rate of rise of global population was incredibly slow, which is because the rate of technological progress was incredibly slow. Yeah, technological progress is allowing the population to expand, but technological progress was very slow. So population expansion was very slow. And then it gradually started accelerating, I guess, from sometime after the agricultural revolution. That was a big step forward and allowed acceleration in population. But then around about 1700, then it's like absolute, the potential for population expansion becomes suddenly absolutely massive. Yeah. So then it's all about our choices. So what ended the Malthusian phase, page 9, it was our choice to use our we have this use the power we have through better technology for something other than more consumption. Remember, we can choose between, very broadly, more consumption. Yeah, sorry, I said wrong there, didn't I? We can use it for more consumption, more leisure, or more reproduction. And in the Malthusian phase, we used it for more reproduction. Then, our post-Malthusian, what do we use it for? More consumption or more leisure? Have a think about that. I'm going to stop this video very shortly, I think, if I'm happy. Yeah. And then we're going to look at the next phase. What followed the Malthusian phase will be the next video.